Russo'sBrand.com, where the pros are the pros.
Well, we got an update on the Bryan Danielson being on the disciplinary committee story. So last week we talked about the rumor that he headed up this committee. Well, he did an interview this past week with itrwrestling.com to clarify that he was not the head of the committee. He said, I am just a part of the disciplinary committee. And we had to take the action that we had to take. The whole thing was hard. I really like Punk, and I have a lot of respect for Punk. He's been an important part of AEW, and I wish him the best going forward. I hope he does a great job there, and I hope he has a lot of fun. Past that, I don't really want to say a lot. Nobody wants, and then he goes on to say a lot. Nobody wants to be a part of a disciplinary committee. My wife and I joke.
Then say no.
Yeah.
Right? Then say no. I don't want to be a part of it.
Be a part of this.
My wife and I joke you can turn it into a gimmick. The reality is I was kind of honored when they asked me to be a part of it. It's not something I get paid for. I'm just like the other wrestlers in the sense that I don't have a contract outside of being a wrestler contract. I'm just one of the wrestlers. I was honored to take it.
Why are you now given responsibilities that then require you to have a certain amount of authority over your fellow wrestlers? Because you can't have you can't have responsibilities without an authority to be able to act on them. They go hand in hand. So you're no longer just one of the other wrestlers. You're now a part of a management position.
Right.
You're managing the other wrestlers, even though you're just another wrestler. How does that make any sense? And how is that not a conflict of interest? But I'm open. I am a very reasonable person. Explain to me how this makes complete and utter sense in any fashion. That if I really want, now, let's just, let's take this a step to explain why I'm taking this position. And I apologize for interrupting your dissertation of Bryan Danielson's. Very short. I don't want to really talk about it, but let's talk about it. Interview. Okay. If you were to tell me I'm wrong, I mean, if I really am, we're all on the podcast. Okay. We're all on the same level, except for now I have certain responsibilities to monitor your two's behavior, and I can take punitive action against you. Okay, so Vince, you clearly always get out of hand, so I'm going to fine you. That's for sure. That's a given. So couldn't you, Vince, honestly, if I fined you, couldn't you go, you know what? That's bullshit. I'm not paying that fine. Oh, you are, and I'm going to go ahead and tell accounting to subtract the fine from your check. Well, if you do that, I'm going to take you guys to court. And if we go into court, do I and the company that does the podcast, do we have a leg to stand on?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, why would people that seemingly are adept at any other kind of business, especially the legal counsel that's around him, allow him to create, Tony Khan, to allow him to create such a clear conflict of interest? You can't tell me that a person who is also a talent, because at the end of the day, all talent are competing to some degree or another, is now given a certain amount of authority and responsibility and can take punitive action against fellow people who compete with him. That is not a conflict of interest.
You know what's worse than that? First of all, bro, CM Punk is Bryan Danielson's senior. He's older than Danielson. He's been around longer for Danielson. That tells me, bro, Al, when it comes to the locker room, that wrestlers' ethics are now gone. Can you imagine back in the day, bro, a wrestler taking the side and working for management? Do you know what, Al, what would they do to that freaking guy in the ring?
They'd stretch him and they'd push him out of the locker room.
Can you imagine, bro?
They'd rib him incessantly to try to crack him and get him to quit. They would rough him up in the ring. they would, and listen, I know somebody's going to have the argument, well, the wrestlers always have policed themselves. Yes, we policed each other, and we did it in ways like wrestlers court.
Right.
You know what I mean? Quite honestly, we did it where it was like two guys went into a room, locked the door, and talked it out, or whatever between the two of them. We've always watched over the locker room without the office then therefore being involved as well, and one wrestler being placed in a position of, again, responsibility and authority to be able to enact punitive actions against the others. If there were any punitive actions that were taken in the locker room, it was the locker room as a whole were doing it to put somebody in line. Mm-hmm. And management was never involved. Wrestler's court was wrestler's court, meaning no one, absolutely, not even Vince. Vince, as long as he's been in the business, has never been in one of those rooms when we held wrestler's court. Never has. No one else from the production staff, no one else has ever been in that room in wrestler's court. That was held for the locker room, by the locker room, and that was a way for the locker room to police itself without the involvement of the office. And therefore there was no delineation. There didn't need to be a delineation of, oh, well, Undertaker's a judge. Well, he's part of the office. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's like Bryan Danielson now he's a wrestler, but he's straddling the fence and he's also office now. We can't. That is bad business all the way around. It is, without a question of doubt, it's a conflict of interest. And it is a huge mistake because, again, I don't know the law. I'm not an attorney, but I do know that, especially when it comes to going to court, it's simply who can present the best case with the best argument. How can you argue the position that, a person who is also a competitor with, not in-ring competitor, but competing for a better spot of more income, etc., can now judge and then punish a fellow competitor.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to run a foot race, and we're going to have a boxing match, and one of the boxers is also going to be the referee. What?
Yeah.
You don't think he's going to, find in his favor? And that's absurd. It's just absurd.
It's evolved.
Good Lord. I mean, we are definitely in the heading to the end of days if it continues to evolve at this rate.
Yeah. I'm just one of the wrestlers. I was honored to take on more. When they asked me to take on more roles backstage, that always makes you feel good. Like they trust in me with these positions. With this being my last full-time year as a wrestler, that's something I'm looking at going forward. What other things can I do besides being in the ring that could help AEW? All the other people on the committee, they have college degrees. They are lawyers. And I'm like, I don't have any education. I've been play fighting in my spandex for 24 years. That's my education.
Yeah, then maybe you shouldn't be ruling on the future of fellow wrestlers, bro. Exactly.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
Oh my God. I mean, come on, bro. Is he actually trying to say, Al, that okay, I'm producing backstage now. I'm helping other talent right backstage now. Oh, and I'm also determining whether they get fired or not. Like that's the same freaking thing, bro.
I know. I can get it, okay, if like they have this committee of lawyers, attorneys, and they want some kind of insight as far as, because they've never been in the wrestling business, as to what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. And that now, and he is there as to give a voice to the locker room, okay? And kind of guide or direct or, this would fly, that was wrong based on, the wrestling business's, morals or guidelines or whatever, even though that wrestling doesn't really have any. But that's not what position he's put in. And that's not what we've been told. We've been told that he is the one, am I not correct, in the in the description of his position that he is the one who is now in a place with this committee to decide
right
what behavior is acceptable and what isn't, and then to act out and take punitive action against the other wrestlers. If he's there as an advisory role, then that's cool. And the attorneys and lawyers, they're the ones who ultimately make that decision and they are the ones who have the responsibility of taking that punitive action. Great. That works. But if he's one of those people that also decide and are able to take that punitive, no, that doesn't work. Does not work.
And bro, on top of that, aren't you going to have heat from the boys?
You should, yeah.
You should, I mean, right or wrong?
Yeah, I can't see how he couldn't.
Bro, if what Bryan Danielson is saying is correct, and bro, I don't think he's lying at all. My only question is, he says he wasn't getting paid for this. Okay, bro, then why are you doing it? Like, I can almost understand, bro, if you're getting paid for this. But he even says, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just, why would you do this?
Why would you take on the responsibility and the aggravation and the headache of doing it if you weren't getting compensated in some manner?